Chuf Aleph Amud Base. Amar Cheskia. So Menayin Lechametz Pesach She'Osher B'Hana. So we've had this idea before. Lo Yeach El Chametz. Lo, you want to have a heter achila. So time it says the Torah Lo Yeach El Chametz. If it didn't say Lo Yeach El, I would think that there's an Isra achila and the Isra Hana you don't have, and therefore that shita will be Palag al Rabba Bao. So Rabba Bao is the shita of the Rabba Bao. Kol Makom Shenemar Lo Yechel Lo Techel Lo Tachulu. Just anytime it says don't eat, Echad Isra Echila ve'Echad Isra Hana Mashma. So that once it says Lo Yechel is Hana. So either it's it's a type of Hana, and therefore like Echila is like the Iker Hana, and therefore that's why it's spoken in food, or it's a type of Hana, and every other type of Hana is also ad shirpot lecha hakosov kederach shirpot lecha ben nevela. So nevela is motor b'hana. So it says the Tanya lo tachulu kol nevela. So you have the iser of lo tachulu of nevela. So they're according to Rav Abau, therefore it's an iser hana because it says lo tachulu. Leger shebisharecha titnena. The goy that is in the ger which is in your gates you will give it to. Now this ger is a ger toishav. He's obviously not an actual ger, because an actual ger is a Jew in every respect, so therefore he doesn't get his own little designation in the Torah. So the ger toisha that's in your sharecha you will give it to, and he will eat it, or you can sell it to a goy. So you have the hana of mechira, you have the hana of giving it, but again here's the idea which we've spoken about before, that any nevela that a ger would eat, or a goy would eat, or a goy would buy, that's called food. That's called the Isser Nevela. Anything that a ger wouldn't buy or a ger wouldn't eat, so then that's not called food. It's not called eating, and therefore that's the pogrom, and that's why bits of pig that have got hard like wood is mutter to eat, because the ger toishav wouldn't eat it, and the goy wouldn't buy it from you as food anyway. So the pasuk clearly says that you give it to the ger, but you sell it to a goy. So what about giving it to a giving it to a ger and selling it to a ger b'mechira? How do we know that I can sell it to a ger toishav? So we're kind of breaking up the pasuk here. So that's going backwards, back on the ger, and then we're going to say here titnena v'achla or mocher lenachri. So lenachri b'nesina minayin. How do I know that I can give to a goy? Tamad loymar titnena. You can give it v'achla or mocher lenachri. So if we say nimsa oimer echad ger ve'echad nachri ben mechir bein nesina divrei Rebbe Meir. So it's kind of posh it, but Rebbe Meir is holding that you can give it to a goy or a ger toishav, or you can sell it to a goy or a ger toishav. So Rebbe Yehuda Amar, so this is a bit of a weird thing he says here, devarim kekasva. It's the way that they're written. So the pasuk actually says, leger asher b'sharech, you can give it to a ger and you can sell it to a goy, but you can't give it to a goy. So Rebbe Yehuda darim kekasva, there it's the way it is. It's leger ben asin, you give it to a ger, but lenachri ben mechira, and you sell it to a goy. My timer, Rebbe Yehuda Isa kadecha. So we're not getting the what Rebbe Yehuda is saying is that it's also to give something to a goy. And so the reason my time at Rebbe Yehuda, like the answer is because it's also to give some stuff to a goy. But we're asking different type, or his answer here is more of a technical answer on the pasuk. Because Rebbe Meir lechtav rachmana legerish b'shrech titnena v'achlo mocher legoy. So the way that the pasuk is written here, why did I have to put the oy in it? Titnenu va'achla umoicher lenachri. Why do we have o? O lamali shemamina ledvarim kekosvim. Rabbi Meir or lahaktim nesina leger lemechir denachri. So the o is that the first you have to give to the ger. So the ger toishav, you're supposed to give him food. He's part of lechayoso, but the goy is not part of lechayoso. For Rabbi Yehuda, halot zarakro, given the ger atam mitzvah lechachayoso. The ger toishav, you are commanded to give him life, and therefore, if he's about to die, you have to feed him. But nachri atam mitzvah lechachayoso. So lo zarakro, so therefore you don't need the posik. It's a svarahu. So then we go back into the idea of we're asking the question again of whether lo tachilu or don't eat is also an Isser Hana or not. But at this point, Rabbi Yehuda is saying that you can't give stuff to a goy. It's aser to give things to a goy. So I mean, it was coming from lo don't give them chen as a pasuk, but here's the Torah. Aser liten matana chinem le'ovid as chachanim. It's aser to give a present for free to a server of the stars. But it's mutter to give to something to a ger toisha because he's within the idea of lahachayosa. So only people who are in lahachayosa can you give a gift to, but by the goyim, it's a oiv chachavim. He's a oiv avodah zarah, and therefore it's also to give him a gift, and that will be under the isur of lo teschenen. Don't give them chen. Now the simple question asking here in the Torah is that we have two sides here. That the ger toishav is makabel, that he won't do avodah zarah. He comes live in the land of Israel. He won't do avodah zarah. So he's a good guy. He's not doing avodah zarah. But this guy, and the goy is doing avodah zarah. So what if you have something in between, somebody who's doing avodah zarah and somebody who's a ger toishav? I mean, you could say, you could say a good Christian, but according to the Rambam, the Trinity is a problem of avodah zarah. But good Christians don't believe in the Trinity anymore anyway, so maybe you can re-include them. But what about Yishmaelim? Are Arabs? Are you allowed to give a gift to an Arab? Obviously, there's huge nafkaminas here. But based on the Gemara we did, we have two people in the car. We have the Nochri and we have the Ger Toishav. So you're allowed to give to the Ger Toishav, and you're not allowed to give to the Goy. Right, you keep your ideas of what it should be. So, Esrei Temetan is the Bach. Esrei Temetan Achinam Lavoid Oivd Zar. Ketev Beis Yosef. Lav Lafuki Yishmaelim. We're not coming to be Moitzi Yishmaelim. Eila Lafuke Ger Toishav. The Hayino Shekabel Alav Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. So the Ger Toishav is taken on the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach, and therefore he's the person. So here it's Aser Li Ten Matana to Avodah Zarah. It's not to say you can't give them to the Yishmaelim, but it's the Ger Toishav V'zehu She'ena Mitzavim L'Chachioso. Aval Shar Goyim Kulam Din Echad Lehem Ad Kan L'Shoyim. So he's saying that you can't Lav Lafuke Yishmaelim. It's not to say that it's mutter to give a gift to a Yishmaelim. That's not what it's saying. Because when it says Osli Temetan Avodah Zarah, so if we say that Yishmaelim don't do Avodah Zarah because they hold of monotheism or whatever you want to do in that sugya, basically it doesn't say that it's not also to give an Yishmaelim. It's to say that the Ger Toishav is not also, because he makabels the Benchav and Shamitzv L'Chayosov, but Shar Goyim, including the Yishmaelim, Din Echad Lehem Ad Kan L'Shoneh. So it's also to give to a Yishmael to the Yishmael. It's also to give to a Yishmaeli based on the Beis Yosef. So the Bach now comments on V'lefit V'rav Kasha Lama lo leRabbeinu lichtov leAvodah Zarah. Why did Rabbeinu is the Torah? Why did the Torah say Avodah Zarah? So he's saying Matan Tzchin leAvodah Zarah, and the Yishmael don't do V'letet Mechshol. And why would he write in this way? That you would understand to be ma'ayit the Yishmaelim. Okay, now up to here, it's important to understand what the Bach is saying. So the Beis Yosef is saying that giving to a Yishmael is aser, just like giving to a goy. And the Bach is saying, but then why does it say Oived Avodah Zarah? Why does it say Oived Avodah Zarah here? Because that's going the other way, and therefore it should be mutter to give a gift to the Yishmael. Now everything from V'lefi Nias Daiti to the end of the Bach was taken out in the early editions. This wasn't in the earlier editions. This is in the later editions, and it's like a kisva yad that was added in. Obviously the Bach has been going for 500 years. So in the printings, it's only been recently, in the past 50 years or whatever, it's been added back in. So I'm trying to find. I have a note in my back saying that this is all new stuff. It doesn't. Some people don't have it in the back, and then it's like a side note that has this end bit. But mine has it in the back, but it says that this wasn't in earlier editions. Now this is all important because Rav Kook didn't have the new edition. So Rav Kook gave a heter to sell land during Shemitah to the Yishmolim based on this Bach up to where we're up to. Because up to where we're up to, the Beis Yosef says that it's Aser, but the Bach says it's Motor. The Beis Yosef says it's Aser because of the second half of the Torah. Here, that it's the mitzvah lechacha yoso. But the Bach says, but look at this Oived Avodah. So therefore, the Oived Avodah is much to give it to the Shmonim. So therefore, the Rav Kook says that you can sell your land or give your land away because you're giving it to, or even you're selling the land for a year or whatever. That's mutter because you can give it something, because since the Yishmaelim are not Oived Avodah, therefore it's mutter. So I think the Netziv says that you have a Shemitah today is the Rabbanan. So the whole din of working on Shemitah is an Isser de Rabbanan. In order to get out of the Isser of the Rabbanan of working on Shemitah, then you enter into a deraisa of selling land to Goyim, which you're not allowed to do. So it was a big tumult at the time. Again, every 7 years these things come up. So this Bach was one of the points of the heter to sell. They would sell the land. Heter mechira, they would sell the land to the Yishmolim based on this Bach, because it wasn't. So therefore, it's not an isser to give it to them. Now, Anias Daiti says the Bach Nira de lefisha ha malchus makbidim im yizkiru shem goy b'sfarnenu, so that the nations that we live in, that they care if we put goy in their books. So if the Torah said Asir litem atanachinem legoy, then Trump would get upset. But mokum she'eninu lechovod, where you put a goy in the book, where it's not for the kavod of the goy. Al kain harsiu milas goy, that they removed the word goy because of b'makom le'ovid avodah, and he wrote in avodah zarah. So the Torah never said he never wrote that. He wrote goy, but the censors, they took out the word goy and put in oived chachavim. Aval ikar hanosach besifri Rabbeinu hu Israeli temetanas chinim legoy. So therefore, there's no stira between the beginning and the second half of the Torah. It's goy, which is not Yishmaelim, and not a ger toishav, which is not Yishmaelim, and therefore it's also to give it to Yishmaelim. K'disa sof perakam avodah zarah. So Rav Kook never sold this second half of the Bach, and it became quite a political thing. And then it was whatever was found, or they had it in different editions. And so a few years ago, I didn't really understand what it was all about. But the chief rabbi said that we made the first ger toishav in like 1,000 years or whatever. That they davka made a ger toishav in order to sell him the land. And now we're more mahadran than we've been before. Because every year, Heter Mechera gets a bit more mahadran. You start off with 25 problems, and now there's like 3 or 4 problems. But they've got rid of a lot of the issues. A lot of issues that there was at the time of all the tumult, they don't have anymore. So this is one of the. I didn't really understand what he's going on about. It has to be ger toishav, like what's it? But this is the Indian here. When you have the ger toishav, that for selling the land to a ger toishav is less of a problem because you're allowed of the din of you have chayoso, and therefore you can give land or sell land in Eretz Yisrael to a ger toishav. So pick it back up in the Gemara. So since I need a pasuk to matter nevela b'hana, then all the Yisrael in the Torah are also ben echila ben b'hana, because it says don't eat, and then it says but you can feed the nevela. So the Rebbe Yehuda, he says the Ram Kakasvan. So Huda Ata Ha Kol Isser Shabbatorah Manalei. How does he have it? Because he doesn't learn the Isser from the Nevela. The Asr Bahan. How does he learn all the Isser Hana? He brings it from Mikelev Tashlich Oisoi. Okay, so from the dog, you said, so this is talking about treif. You throw the treif to the dog. And what does it say oisoi? What does it say oisoi? This is the thing, which we're dashing this word oisoi, you don't, so oisoi etamashlich lekelev etamashlich lekelev kol ishin shabbatayra. So Rabbi Yehuda is learning, and is hana from the word oisoi. So that the treif is the treif is an isra achila, and that has a mutter, a heter hana. So all the other hanas in the Torah must be asked if you don't get them for a shit once it says don't eat it. But Rabbi Meir's already learnt it. Rabbi Meir's already learnt it from the nevela. So therefore, what does he do with treif? So Rabbi Meir oisoi atamashik lekelev via tamashik lekelev chulin shnisut ba'azara. So the oisoi, it says that he learns that it's an iser. It's an iser hana on chulin shnischat ba'azara. Again, as he said, the chulin shnischat ba'azara is you're bringing your own cow that you want to eat on the barbecue, and you're shachting it in the temple. Now that Rashi says Rashi says that there's an iser. So he says here the isurei hana lav deraisa. So you have an iser hana that is not deraisa. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says here. Ve'ida chulin shnischat ba'azara lav deraisa. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't need that oisoi. That oisoi he learns for shar that wherever it says lo ta'achol that hana is aser. So how does he learn out that chulin shnisut ba'azara is aser b'hana? He learns that you don't need a pasuk to teach you that, because the whole din of chulin shnisut ba'azara is the rabbanon. So Rashi says no, it's not that the whole thing. It's that the shechita and the echila is Isser Deraisa, but the Isser Hana is Lav Deraisa. So because Iyat HaZoveach v'oicho b'korav makom. So we had this whole thing with korav makom. So the pasuk says v'zakta v'acholta b'richok makom. So this is talking about chulin. You will shecht it and you will eat it from far away. That's chutz l'mechitza shechina. That's outside the Yazara. You will shecht it and eat it. But you will not shecht it and eat it b'korav makom. So he learns that it's Deraisa. He learns that his whole thing is the raisa, the shchita, and the yechila. But it's not mefurish. And mefurish behen lav, behedia, bechila. Therefore, you need to learn out an isser hana. And there, on that point, Rabbi Yehuda says that the isser hana is lav deraisa. And then we saw in the Tosfos that's the isser hana. It's not mashma pshat halacha kain ele legamri kamor lav deraisa. He says completely. So Tosfos holds that the whole din shchita, echila, and hana is lav deraisa, and Rashi's holding that echila and shechting is deraisa, but the isser hana is not deraisa. So we go into chulin, kuf yudalam and base. Amar Ravashi, minayin lebasar b'chalav she'asar b'echila. How do I know that basar b'chalav is asar b'echila? Shenemar lo ta'achol kol toyeva. So the pasuk says, don't eat any toyeva, anything that's disgusting. Kol she'te'avti lecha harehu b'bal ta'achol. So this pasuk here, lo ta'achol lo kol toyeva, don't eat any toyeva. Anything that it's disgusting to God, then it's bal ta'achol. So God said don't. Now, usually we would learn, I think Rashi might say this in the Torah, that it says don't cook a kid in the mother's milk 3 times. One is for the cooking, one is for the eating, and one is for the hana. That's not what it says here in Chulin. It says that we have this pasuk, lo ta'achal kol toyeva, don't eat anything that's horrible. So any time that God said don't do it, that's a toyeva. And therefore any yisur deraisa already is this. Since God said don't make chalav basar. That's only in echila. So we have Rabbi Abahu in our sugi. So when it says lo ta'achal, therefore it's all the hana is mashma. So therefore, once you have an isser deraisa, then you have an isser hana. Lo ta'achal kol toyeva, anything that's aser, you have an isser hana. Now, if we have a look here at the Gillian Shas here in the Rashi. So Rashi says up here, this is the little BMW sign. So he said, "As day mafurish behen." So he said that you have the Isser Echila and the Zavicha. The Shechita and the Echila is an Isser Deraisa, says Rashi. So says the Rebbe Kiveger, Kashali, Ha mikol mokam nelef mikro. Nevertheless, we have a crow. The lo toechel kol toyeva. The gam hanaba mashma le Rebbe Abau. So we have the passage. So here, this is asking from Chulin. So the whole din of Rashi, we should have a din of Isser Hana. Once you have an Isser Achila, okay, you don't need to have it. So it doesn't say Mefurash Lo Ta'achel. The Rashi says that we're lacking the pasuk since it doesn't say Behediyah. We should have to Mefurash Behen Lav Behediyah. But I don't care. Once God doesn't like it, it's Isser Bahana. Don't eat any toyeva. Chulin Bazara is a toyeva because you're not allowed to shecht it and you're not allowed to eat it. It's a toyeva, therefore it's Isser Bahana. So therefore, why is Rashi saying he doesn't have a pasuk Mefurash? Now, there's a famous story where this guy writes a book answering the kashas of the Rebbe Kiveger, and here he leaves as a tzorachin. So he gives his Rosh Hashiva, this book he wrote. He says, "I've answered up all the tzorachins of the Rebbe Kiveger, except for 3 of them." So the rabbi takes the book, he gives it back to him, and he says, "I see you understood 3 of his kashas." But for the harbitza of Torah, we're still going to analyze this and see for an answer. We're going to defend Rashi in the face of the Tzorach of Rebbe Kiveger. So the Gemara in Chulin continues. Maisa Shabbos listeru. The Maisa Shabbos could go on a mavashal b'Shabbos. It should be aser b'echila lechol Yisrael. If you cook something on Shabbos, it should be aser for Yisrael. Daha hizarticha letoevo v'laharchik mimenu. Because I said it's like it's an Isser Shabbos. Va'anen tanen b'mezid lo yechel. But our din is if you cook b'mezid, don't eat it. Who? Mishum kanas. V'alacher moichlim. But other people can eat it. But it's a toyeva. How can you have? So therefore, the Meiser Shabbos, if you cook on Shabbos, it should be aser b'hana. Here you can eat it. Again, if it's b'shoy geg, well, you can eat it after Shabbos. So you can even eat it. If even in b'mezid, if you do b'mezid. Everyone else can eat it after Shabbos, but it should be aser b'hana. The ha'toevti lecha, because it's a toyeva, because God doesn't want you cooking on Shabbos, so therefore it's a toyeva. Amar kro ki kodesh hi lechem. Shabbos, it's kodesh for him. So the teretz is the pasuk says ki kodesh hi lechem, that the din of Shabbos is kodesh for you. He kodesh ve'ein maisa kodesh. Is kodesh. And the Maisa is not Kodesh. So at this point, I mean, again, the Gemara is not exactly so clear what exactly is the teretz here. But clearly the Shabbos is a toyeva. To do an Isser Shabbos is a toyeva. And it's mutter b'hana, it's mutter b'achila, even if you do it b'mezid, even if it's after Shabbos. But it's still mutter, it's not, there's no Isser oilam. Why? We say because Shabbos is Kodesh and the Maisa is not Kodesh. So the pashtus here is that the Isser is in the Shabbos. The Isser is not in the food. There's nothing wrong with the food. There's no Isser chalin in the food. It's the Isser of what's done to the food. So when you have basar v'cholov, the food itself has the Isser. The Isser is in the food. The Isser is the food. It's not something that was done to the food. The Isser is the food. It's a bit like chalav stam and chalav yisrael. There's no difference in the milk, whether it's chalav stam or chalav yisrael. Some guy looked at it, some guy didn't look at it. It's the same milk, it's the same cow. I mean, the kosher shechita is different to non-kosher killing of an animal. It's a different maisa. The maisa of the milk is different. So here, if a maisa, like the maisa Shabbos, but the food's okay. The toyeva doesn't chal is not licht in the food. The toyeva is licht in the maisa. So therefore, by basar v'cholav, which we said, how do I know the basar v'cholav is also? Because the toyeva is don't put the cholav and the basar together. When you do that, the food itself is a toyeva. So the toyeva is licht in the food. Here, the toyeva is licht in the maisa, not in the food. That chiluk is coming up in the Gemara. Like, it's not like a Svar and a Rishon or something. This is what the Gemara is saying. Again, but you can learn it differently because just these words of the Gemara are a bit vague. Ki kodesh hi lechem, hi kodesh ve'ein maisa kodesh. I'm just explaining the pashtus of how it answers up the question. Now, if we go back to the Rashi, can we say the same thing here in the Rashi? What the Rabbi Kiveger is saying? Ha mikol malkum nelef mikro to lo techo kol toyeva. So Rabbi Kiva, now I'm not really answering up. I give an answer for Rashi that he won't agree with. The tzarich of Rabbi Kiveger is because he's learning this like basar v'cholav. Whereas I want to say Rashi's learning it like Shabbos. So as you have chulin shenishka ba'azara, where is the Yisr Lechten? Is the Yisr Lechten in the meat? Is the Yisr Lechten in the cow? Or the Yisr is Lechten in the Maisa? Did you take, because again, if you take basar v'cholav and you mix them, and you take that food and put it under the microscope, you can see the Yisr under the microscope, because the food is the Yisr. Whereas the Maisa Shabbos, it's like the Kli becomes Asr. If you cook food on Shabbos, the Kli becomes Asr. That's the shittas of the Rashba that the Mishabur brings down. That there's like an Isser Shabbos in the Kli. That's why you have a problem of places that say, "Oh, we open on Shabbos. We just don't have a. Everything we have here is kosher. It's just because we open on Shabbos, we can't get a hechsher." I mean, they do that type of thing. But according to the Rashba, which Mishabur brings down, then all the kelim and treif. And then the kelim will then treif up the food. But is the Isser of Shabbos? We're saying it's not in the food. So here, the shechita of the chulin ba'azara. If you say that the Isser is in the maisa, but there's nothing wrong with the food, you can just go eat the food. So what's the problem? So therefore, we were not going to learn out from toyeva. But if the Isser is taka in the food, I say once you shech the bazar, the food becomes a toyeva. So again, is it the shechtin? Again, the basar v'cholav together is a toyeva to God. That's the food. The basar v'cholav being there together. It's the cooking on Shabbos that's a toyeva, but the food itself, once it starts Shabbos, is fine. So here, once you shech the behema, was it the shechita of the behema in the azara? Was that the toyeva of God, or now that you shechted the cow in the azara, now the food is a toyeva to God. The cow is a toyeva to God. I'd say the pashas would be the first one that's in the Maaseh, like Shabbos, and not like. But obviously, Rabbi Kiveger would hold the other way.